Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's just a great feeling when you repaint your place and that fresh, bright, vibrant look, and you picked out the perfect color, but getting there is usually never easy. How do you decide what color you want? Do you want to do an accent wall? What about the trim? What about the finish? Eggshell, mattes, gloss, semi-gloss. There's so many different choices. And for that, we have her. She's an amazing interior designer, and she's with us today to kind of help us with a color consult and how the whole process works. Brandie Crain joins us on the program. Hi, Brandie.
Hey, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm gonna share with you. If you look in the back here, this wall, which has Justin Bieber's picture signed on there. I have all the stuff up here. It looks like an orange. And I just love that orange color. I went through probably 4 different versions. Half of those went up on the wall. Only to change it. And then the accent wall, this is great. Looks different on everybody's computer. Always do.
Sure.
It was a lot of work. You know,
Yeah.
put this one up, put that one up. Do I go a little darker? Do I go a little bit lighter? Where do you begin when somebody works with you and does a color consult? How does it actually work?
Yeah. So first, let me say that it's not easy for me in my own house. Like I'm the same way. I go through a lot of choices. A client said the other day, she said, "How do you make these choices for me so easily? It's like you don't even think about it. You just know what's going to work." And it's almost like flipping through a magazine or Pinterest. And when I see something I like, I know that I like it. I know that it works. And so I said it's the same when I'm, with a client. Like I just know what's going to work for them. I think more like logically, there's not so much emotion tied to it. In my own home, it's more emotional.
Yep.
So like the whole paint color thing, it's like, we think about it too much. But for clients, it's just like, no, this is what's going to look good, like logically on your wall. So that helps when you're working with a designer for sure. But the process, basically we come in and I'll speak with my client about, sometimes it's a whole home. And so that's a little bit different than one room, or sometimes they just want to paint like their kitchen cabinets. A whole home, you have to make a color scheme. And we can talk about that in a little bit about how to, put colors together that aren't going to clash and how, that feels cohesive. But if it's just one room or cabinet colors, we talk about the feeling that they want in the room. Do they want it to feel light and bright? Do they want it to feel a little more cozy and moody? And, just that overall vibe that they're going for is the first thing. Second of all, I like to talk about function because, like, say it's your kitchen cabinets and you think you want a white kitchen. Well, okay, if you're going to do white cabinets, you need to know what sheen to go with, first of all, not a matte that's going to show, all the fingertip. And if you have a dog or kids, all that stuff. But then also, it is going to show a lot. White doesn't always age very well. Sometimes it turns. It can turn yellow, especially if you use an oil-based paint, but it shows every little smudge and everything, even when you do use the right sheen. So just function wise, things to think about. Maybe you should go with an off-white or a beige or something like that. And then I just pull out, I have a color kit and we look at different samples, put some on the wall or, just hold it up. And then I like to narrow it down to just 2 or 3. Sometimes the client will want to pick. They want a selection to choose from. Sometimes they say, I don't want to think about this anymore. Just do it. Just make a choice. And I'll do that as well. But I really like to put, so Lowe's sells or anywhere, sells the sheetrock patches that are like 2 by 2. And if you paint your sample on that rather than on your wall, because every room has 4 walls, you can move that to see how it's going to look throughout the whole room. I used to paint on my walls, and then you paint the whole room and you're like, looks a little bit different over here. I don't like the whole. And so when you can move it around and live with it for a little while in different places, that helps too.
Now you tell me.
I know, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure through trial.
That's why we come in handy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, let's. I remember trying to pick a gold yellowy color, which probably, I'm guessing, one of the tougher ones because you don't want
very tough.
You don't want too bright, too mustardy. It took me it took going to somebody's house and actually looking up and saying, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, that's the color I was looking for. Got the name
Yes.
Chesterfield Buff, never forgot it. And that's the one I used. But I probably, all right, I'm just going to share with you. It was a back room and I went through probably four different, I mean, it was an extension on a house, four
Mhm.
different versions, right down to even trying uh faux something. It was a while ago, but using
Mhm.
sponge with different
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I
sugars and
remember
all
that.
of that. And
Mhm,
that didn't look that great. So then
mhm,
onto another
mhm.
color. I love your idea about the sheetrock because
Yes.
lighting is so key. And this side of the room is going to be different from that side of the room.
Yes.
And carrying around that little chip from the paint
Mhm.
store only goes so far. It's always going to
Right.
be different, right?
Absolutely. And like think of people who are building a house or remodeling. And a lot of times they just want their home white, and that's fine. We can work with that. It's not for everybody, but some people just want white on every wall.
Hmm.
Well, first of all, white is not white is not white. There are thousands of white. They all look very different. Some read warm, some read cool. And so in that case, it is especially imperative to have your sheetrock patches and move them from room to room, not even wall to wall, so that you can see, oh, this is going to look a little more yellow. And I like to choose two or three and have two or three sheetrock patches so they can see them on the same wall side by side, and really compare, and because you can see, that one reads really yellow compared to that one, or whatever the case may be. So
Would you
that's
say if somebody's gravitating toward the white, would you say, or would you suggest that maybe it's a better idea to do a very, very, very light gray and get away from
mm.
that white?
Yeah, it just depends on the client. Some clients have art collections that they want to display.
Hmm.
And in that case, I do recommend white because you want the art to be the showpiece, or they want like a ton of gallery walls. Um, some people have open floor plans where if you don't realize it, but if you really look, there's not a lot of walls. Like they might have a bookshelf, on one whole wall. They might have wallpaper on another, and then a big fireplace wall, and then their kitchen cabinets. And so they don't have a ton of wall space, and white's okay then. But yeah, if it's not going to fall into those categories, I would suggest staying away from the white and gray. If gray is another one, you're talking about the yellow. Gray's tough. Gray is really tough because people want like this nice soft to medium gray that's not blue, and they all read really, really blue. So there's a few that I've found that don't. The trends are also moving more to like the creams than gray.
Okay.
But I think either of those choices, if you don't have some art collection to display, and you have a lot of walls, it's definitely a good idea. It's just going to wear better. You just want to make sure it's a neutral.
Can we talk about accent walls? Are they still a thing?
Or I don't think as much as they were 5 and 10 years ago. I think not so much just painting the wall a different color as putting what we call applied moldings. And so that's where you'll see, you've got the strips of boards that make kind of a pattern on the wall, and then you paint that. And so that's more of the accent. Also, wallpaper accent walls are
Hmm.
really, really in right now, especially behind beds. That's like the big way to do it, especially with wallpaper. But I find more so like wallpaper, people are going to like all four walls, in a dining room or an office or whatever. So yeah, but it's just a different type of accent wall. It's got a little more dimension, so it may be the color, but also some added texture with the moldings and whatnot.
What about wainscot?
Mm,
Is that
yeah.
still
And so that's kind of a variation of applied moldings. It's just at the bottom part of the wall. So a lot of people now are doing the entire wall, like in squares and stuff like that. But yeah, Wayne's, I'm about to put some in my own house, but it will be kind of an elevated, more modern version. So typically you see it just like what's called a chair rail, which is a piece of molding that just goes along the perimeter of your room in the middle. But now people are adding things to the bottom of that, like beaded board. I'm going to add just slats of board called board and batten. And so it's a little more elevated, look for that kind of old school.
I when I moved into my last house, recently sold it, but the first thing I did was put in wainscot because
Yeah.
And all it was is, the piece of molding that goes
Mhm.
around. And it was just in a hallway, but it looks
Yeah.
so blank. And then I
Right.
put the squares in, every couple of feet.
Hmm.
And then you paint it like you would paint molding. I guess it would be
Right.
maybe not semi-gloss. I always get them confused. So what's the tier below semi-gloss?
Eggshell.
Eggshell. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes I have.
You didn't tell me there was going to be a quiz.
I'm sorry. You remember it better than I do.
Eggshell's my favorite, so it's the right question.
Because it's
a good
almost
sheen.
it's a good sheen. It's almost non-committal because you're not going, semi-gloss, which is going to be very glossy, sometimes over the
Right.
top, but you're not
Right.
doing matte, which is problematic in terms of showing up dirt and
Right.
fingerprints and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I'm seeing more and more wallpaper, and I love the idea of dividing it with molding. So half wallpaper and then,
Right.
paint it or whatever you choose to do.
Yeah. And it's fun as a designer because you can go like 3/4 of the way up. You can do the whole wall. You can do it half. So there's so many variations that, if I suggest, oh, do this whole room in wallpaper and they give me this, and they're like, well, we like wallpaper, but maybe not this much. Okay. Well, what about just on this wall? And so, what about just half the wall or 3/4? And then they're more, you start big and then you take them down a little, but there's so many ways to have fun with it and so many different choices. But if you're going to do wallpaper, it's kind of like paint. You'd be good to hire a designer because it helps have it narrowed down. Even if the design, we do a lot of consulting. I don't think people realize that. And so, you don't have to hire me and I oversee the whole wallpaper process. You can just pay me for a couple of hours to come in and say, okay, you should use a small floral print wallpaper in this room with like greens and blues. And so I narrow it down for that person, especially people that have a decent design eye. I narrow it down for them and it doesn't feel so daunting anymore. And they may even say, okay, can you look and give me 3 or 4 options and I'll choose from there? Absolutely. I do stuff like that all the time. And then they take it and run with it and hire, the installer and everything. But I help them kind of narrow it down because some people just have no clue where to even start. They just know they want wallpaper. They've seen it, they want it, but what kind? There's so many.
It's so well worth it. And I like to believe that I got a pretty good eye for color. I have a graphic background, so it's always been something else. But I'll tell you, I'm looking at my couch at home and I know I have to add some pillows to it. And I haven't done it yet because I want to do an accent color. It's got a couple of pillows that came with it. And I haven't decided like what would work, what's going to pop. And but like to your point before, Brandie, when it's your own home, whether it's
so
yours
different.
or a client, you are emotionally connected to it.
Right. Absolutely. And I find, honestly, Steve, that's about 80% of what I do. Like what you talked about with the throw pillows, you would not imagine the number of people who ask me to just do those final details. They've got sometimes even their rug, they've got their couches, they've got some art, but they don't know which ones to use. They've got the paint on the walls, but what pillows do I use? Where do I put the art? How do I place the art? Should I have a throw here? What end tables should I get? What then accessories? What should I put on my coffee table? I have this beautiful coffee table, but nothing's on it. It looks bland. And so just zhuzhing it up and like making it feel like home, that is so much of what I do. So much. It's fun for me though. That's my favorite part.
Oh, I love it. And it's like when having a gift, you wrapped the gift. It looks pretty good, but then you put the bow on it.
Right.
The bow that goes around the whole thing and tied perfectly well at the top. It's like, wow, that's the way it's supposed to look.
Right. And then people are like, okay, it's done. Like you finally feel done because without those things, you never really do. And it kind of goes back to what we've talked about before, like that stock room look, it looks like everybody else's. No, let's make it more personal. So that's lots of fun. And that's a way to get design more affordably because you're not paying for an entire project. You're just paying probably a few $100s just to get some ideas for those last minute things that you can put in your room. And it's well worth it to me to have it done and have that peace of mind that it is done well. And you can still tell everybody, yeah, I had a designer. People love that.
Yeah.
Had Brandie design. They
I have people come in and say, nothing. She's fabulous. But it's also like where I am now, I inherited these floors in the kitchen and the foyer area, which is, I don't even know what it's called. Looks like a black granite.
Okay.
Looks beautiful.
Mhm.
except when you want to clean it.
Mhm.
And if you have, like I do, dog and cat, all you
Mhm.
see is hair on the
Right.
floor. And I'm
Mhm.
forever in there with a vacuum. I tried a Swiffer. I've tried, somebody told me, a neighbor said, forget all of that. Use Windex and a paper towel. So I've done
Oh,
that, yeah, on my hands and knees trying to make it look better.
ugh.
If I would have been able to pick that out,
Yeah,
there's no way that I would have
not
selected
black.
that. But I would have not known, but I would have gone to somebody like you, and you probably would have said, yeah, you
Right.
might not want to use that. And my
Yes.
countertops are the same thing. So my catch-ups up on the countertop, and all I see is pity paw prints all over the place.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
Black's
horrible.
tough.
It's,
Yeah. I help people with a lot of those things because again, it's an emotional purchase.
sure.
And so we come in with, I give a little more, sensibility to, yes, it's got to look beautiful, but it's also got to function for, if you hate it, if you know you're constantly cleaning it and seeing paw prints, then it's frustrating. It's not beautiful anymore because it's not
Uh,
giving you any peace.
you never, you never, you never appreciate what you have, because previously the house that I was in before that,
Mhm.
I never really loved the countertops or the floor. It was
Mhm.
okay. I would
Mhm.
take that in a second compared to this, because
Yeah.
you know, I guess if it's perfectly cleaned, which I don't know if it could ever be, it would look striking. But
Right.
it's just it's work. I've almost given up on it. Even if you have,
Yeah.
people over, I try to do that quick clean, but
Right.
I know we're getting to the holidays. New Year is almost here.
Mhm.
What about, a lot of us have New Year's resolutions in our lives. Can we tie that into what we're doing within our house, design changes, things like that?
Yeah, I hope more people will think about that this year. I don't hear a lot of that. I see a lot of people sharing on Facebook or whatever social media, and I never see ones that revolve around homes. And I know it's important to work on, our inner selves and our careers and everything,
Sure.
but our homes are tied so directly to our inner peace.
Yep.
And a lot of times we don't realize how huge of how much it can change our well-being and the way we think of ourselves and the way we just overall feel if our homes reflect that, and if we come home to a space every day that feels at peace. So I hope people will consider that this year. Even if it could be a financial goal. I'm going to set aside this much per week to, at the end of the year, work on this bathroom that I've been wanting to fix up, or every Friday, I'm going to go to Target and pick out, some accessory that's going to enhance my home. It doesn't have to be a huge, renovation to make a difference. Or I'm going to hire a designer, or even just do a consult. Most designers have, my consults are free. Have a designer come in at the beginning of January and help. If you don't know what that goal should be, you just don't know, you don't like the way you feel when you come into your home.
Yep.
It just doesn't feel like you want it to be more beautiful and more peaceful. We can help with that. We can talk you through what are the areas, that you should work on first. Oh, this is okay. You have a budget of $5,000. Here's where you can get the most bang for your buck. Here's, what I would do. So there's definitely a lot of ways that, you can, in the new year, transform your home and think about your home differently. And design doesn't have to be super expensive. I think it's something that everyone, I mean, most people can fit into their budget. And so I hope more people will, consider that and think about how it affects our well-being, because it truly does.
It really does. And I never realized it until I talked to somebody who is an energy healer, somebody's very in
Mhm.
tune with a lot of that, and said to
Mhm.
me once that, you have junk all over the place, you're blocking the flow of energy. And this is years
Mhm.
ago. And I only
Mhm.
recently realized that, like, when you walk in a room and you're just like, oh, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. I don't, it just, something's not aligned with me or you or whatever. And that's because of what's around the room, whether it's things
Mhm.
blocking it, the design of it. So you're right, Brandie. When we talk about New Year's resolutions, we're talking about improving ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, you can't really do that until you have the right, you spend so much time in your workplace and also in your home. Is there one thing, maybe two tips that stand out that you would suggest that can give you a better emotional feel in a room, or just kind of
Sure.
put things up?
So, yeah, a couple of the things I was thinking about as you were talking don't even cost any money. You can just decide that you're going to get rid of a certain percentage of your stuff, just or just go around your home, take a day off work if you need to, or spend a weekend and get some boxes and some trash bags and clean out. Like really think about, what you use and what you don't use, what you see and what you don't want to see. Clean out your cabinets with things that you don't use and put some of the things that you see that you don't want to see every day in those cabinets, things like that.
Yep.
That doesn't cost anything. But also just sprucing things up, like buying little things like pillows, accents that, will make you happy. Maybe it's a print or that makes you happy. You like florals or you like birds or whatever. But also I'd say my number one tip is getting personalized things up around your house, especially in your art. The thing that people put off the most, because I see it all the time, they hire me to do it, is artwork. Photographs. People's kids, they've taken like 5 years of family photos, but they're not on the wall. So what's the point? Just to have them on Facebook for everybody else to see?
You're right.
Have them up so that you can see. And so just getting that art up. And if you don't have the time or it just exhausts you to think about where to put them, call me. I do it all the time. I help people pick out which ones will look good, what frames look good. And again, it's an affordable way to get your home more personalized and feeling even more organized. But when you walk in and you see, if you're having a bad day and you look and you see your favorite photos on the wall, that bad day, no matter what, is going to get better because you're reminded of the best things in your life, and really great memories. And maybe it's something grandma cross-stitched for you. It doesn't even have to be a picture. But I just think personal touches and having those things around, especially up on the walls, if your walls are blank, is going to make a huge difference in how you feel about your home when you walk in.
It's a positive vibe too. That kind of elevates everything. But
absolutely,
going back to what we said before is have somebody do it or direct you. And I realized that last weekend I had my friend Tina come to my office and we're just, we had said like she's going to help me clean and purge. And I'm pretty organized and neat. I just can't, I haven't even gotten around to it. I don't want to do it because it's your own space. She's like, let's go. All right. All the computers out the door. On the flip side of that, you walk into her kitchen, it's like a hurricane hit. And you open up the cabinets and things are falling out and she buys extra of this and extra of that. I'm looking at it. Oh, we could do this. We could do that. She's looking at it like, oh, forget it. I'm not even going to deal with it. So my point here is having somebody else direct you, especially somebody like you that knows what they're doing, has an eye for it, for what it costs. It's so beneficial. It
absolutely.
And look at when you do the math in terms of time, how much you live with where you're living. It's everything. Why do you want to live in chaos, right? It's
right. Absolutely. You should want to come home. You really should.
And you should get that feeling that it is home. So if it's not feeling like home, something's not right. Maybe you can't put your finger on it. You're not really sure what it might be. But I'm sure you, with your experience and as an outside set of eyes, even if it's virtually done, you got it. I'm sure you can look at it and say, why don't you do this? How about that? How about this idea?
That's it. Yeah. We all need a Tina.
I'm actually going to send that little piece to her right there. That's fantastic. And you know what? Last week we talked about, what are they, the rug thing? What are they called?
Oh, Ruggables. Yeah. Did you look?
Yeah. These are rugs that you can wash. And I never even knew it existed. And now it's on my radar based on what you said. Your website, it's brandiecraininteriors.com.
Correct.
And consult is free. Your fees are very, very, very reasonable. You have great ideas. So start the process. It's a new year. So make it, not only a new you, but also a new surrounding around you.
Right. Absolutely.
What a difference that's going to make. Yeah. I'm glad we got a chance to talk today. Some really good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm color shy sometimes, so I'm glad we went down that road in terms of figuring it all out.
I hope it helped.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandie, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Steve. You have a good weekend.
Look forward to talking next time.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.